All right, am I live? I think I'm live now. I'm in here a little early, so I will give it a few moments. For those of you that are watching the replay, make sure you post hashtag replay. And I will introduce myself. For those of you that do not know me, I am Ujo Wajet. I'm an intuitive wellness coach, personal trainer, energy healer, intuitive development mentor, and I am here to talk about self-care. So, the month of September is actually Self-Care Awareness Month. So, for the next 4 weeks for the month of September, I'm going to be talking about self-care. I'm going to be talking about why we struggle with self-care, ways to improve your self-care, and answer any questions that you might have when it comes to this particular topic. I would love to know, what your current view of self-care is, how you apply that in your life. Is it something that you struggle with? Let me know, because one of the things I have learned when it comes to self-care is that it's not something that should be just an optional thing that you do. It should be something that is the foundation. It should be foundational. It should be like a priority. And now, don't get me wrong, just because I'm a wellness coach and a personal trainer and I talk about self-care, that doesn't mean that I'm perfect either. I definitely have times where I struggle with it. And I'm going to talk about those things because we're all here in this realm, this 3D realm. Hey, Candy J. Hey, Michael. So, when it comes to that, I've learned for myself that when I am the most stressed out, the most overwhelmed, it's when I am out of my routine, right? I'm out of having a consistent practice with self-care. So the first thing is, well, what is self-care, right? And that's something that I encourage you to define for yourself. So let me know in the comments what is your definition of self-care? Like, what does that mean to you? Because everybody's view is different. And I feel like in order for you to actually apply self-care, you need to define that for yourself. Because if you're basing it off of what somebody else thinks, so say you just see something like, okay, well, self-care is just, getting more sleep and, taking bubble baths. Maybe that is your ideal aspect of self-care, but for somebody else it's different. So think about what self-care means to you. Is it something that's even important? So that's another thing, right? Is that something that you currently value? Do you feel like it's just a waste of time? Getting clear on where you stand with self-care is important, because no matter what anybody else says, if it's something that you don't find value in or that you don't think is worth your time, then what's the point of even talking about it or applying it? You may have a different format, a different philosophy around how you care for yourself. So you seeing and working with yourself. Yes, that's great. So I view self-care as it's an ongoing practice. It's something that is proactive, and it's something that you're constantly working towards internally and externally. So I feel like working on yourself is not just about the external aspect of who you are. It's more than just bubble baths and, taking long walks. Those are great things, but then what's the layer underneath that? Another thing to think about is when it comes to just let's talk about like why you might struggle with self-care in the first place. One of the main reasons, aside from not defining what self-care is for you, is really looking at like, well, what is it that you're wanting to achieve? So really getting clear on why you want to, if you have been out of a self-care routine, then why do you want to get back into it? What is the goal? So if your goals are vague, then your experience is going to be really shallow. It's not going to do anything for you because you haven't fully defined a clear goal. So George mentioned self-preservation, listening to my body, self-analysis, honoring my soul, and all that is. I love that. And, through that lens, George, I think looking at it like as a form of self-preservation, when you define it in that way, then you kind of go into, when it comes to self-care and listening to your body, are there aspects that you haven't been listening to as much as you used to, right? So how you're tuning in with your body. I actually have a podcast episode that talks about how to become more in tune with your body. That is episode 11 of the Fit Body, Fit Spirit podcast. So that's something you can check out if you're interested in it. So no matter what your definition of self-care is, if your goal is vague, then your results are going to be skewed. If you don't know what you really want, then you're just kind of floating around. You're just in the abyss of like, oh, I'm just doing a little bit of this and doing a little bit of that, but it's really not clear. Team Virgo. Yes, Team Virgo. So I want you to think about that. I want you to go a little bit deeper with what is it that you're wanting to accomplish? What is one thing, if you wanted to become more consistent with self-care, what is one thing that you would want to accomplish? So for example, if, let's say, sleep, if you just want to start with just getting a consistent amount of sleep or waking up at a certain time in the morning, maybe you're wanting to be more productive, increasing your productivity. Maybe that's the goal, because when you increase your productivity, you can do more things, or you can do less things more efficiently. And that allows you to feel more accomplished. And when you feel more accomplished, you have more confidence in yourself. You're able to really, that exudes in other aspects of your life. So maybe it's starting with just having a nighttime routine to where you're taking time to maybe do some journaling, maybe do some stretching, some deep breathing. You're disconnecting from social media, like you're preparing yourself for bed so you can become more consistent at waking up in the morning. Where I see a lot of people fall short is they focus on the waking up in the morning, but you really need to start with what you're doing the night before to prepare you for bed, so you can have a sound sleep, so you can be more refreshed in the morning. Does that make sense? So that's just one example of how you can really take that one thing. So maybe it's you are wanting to exercise more. If you're wanting to exercise more, then look at what you're currently doing now. If exercise is not happening at all, that's fine, right? Would it make sense for you to go from not doing zero exercise to working out 7 days a week? I would not recommend it. I would recommend starting 2 or 3 times a week and then building your way up. But what is the goal with the exercise? Is the goal just to start moving your body more? Is the goal, do you want to walk a certain amount of miles a week? Are you wanting to lose weight? Are you wanting to get lean? Are you wanting to just feel more energized? Like, what is the goal of? Yes, exercise is good for everybody. It's good for the general population, but why is it important for you, and what is one thing you want to accomplish? What is one thing you want to achieve by starting this thing or getting back into it? So that's something, hey Buddha, that's something I want you to think about, because if you're not, and I see this happen a lot with clients that I train, or just clients that I used to train at the gym, or that was, that I just met around the gym. And it's like, well, like, oh yeah, I'm here just working out or whatever. But they're just doing it because they know it's something good that they should be doing, but they don't have their own personal goal for doing it. So how do you know if you reach a certain point? How can you check that block of like, okay, I am making traction. I am seeing, I am on the path. I am seeing progress. How can you assess that if you have not defined what the destination is? So if you are wanting to incorporate more exercise or body movement, it doesn't have to be, working out at a gym or lifting weights. It could just be becoming more physically active. Maybe you want to do yoga. Maybe you want to dance. Maybe you want to get into like calisthenics. Maybe you want to drink more water. Like whatever it is, it's like, okay, in 30 days, I want to have achieved this. Like, this is the goal I'm looking for. My goal, maybe you want to, let's continue with the exercise thing. You want to exercise more, but you haven't been exercising. I wouldn't recommend starting 7 days a week if you haven't been doing anything. Start with 2 or 3 days a week. But look at how that can make sense for your current schedule. What would need to shift within what you're currently doing? How can you integrate that thing into your day that makes sense for your day, so it's actually sustainable? I talked about this during the challenge when I did the challenge in July, of if you're just cutting off your life and changing your life around just for a 6-week challenge or whatever, and then you go back to what you were doing, what's the point? The goal is, if you want to have a lifestyle change or a long-term success with exercise, with self-care, with more rest, then you have to start looking at how you can pepper this in to your day. Is it better for you in the morning or in the evening? So those are things I want you to think about. And then when it comes to how will you know that you've been successful, you need to define that as well. And if you feel stuck there, then that's where you want to start asking questions of, well, okay, like, this is what I want to do, but I'm not sure like how to define that or how to like get clear on that. Then you can start asking questions. You can talk with the coach. You can post in the comments if you're feeling kind of like, okay, I know this is it, but how can I mark this throughout the week or throughout the month, or whatever that looks like for you, whatever your time frame is. And that's another thing, set a time frame. So that way, if it's 30 days, if it's a week, you're looking at the end of that week of like, okay, this is what I set out to do. If the goal was to work out 3 days out of the week, and then you reflect on that at the end of the week. Like, did I do this? Did I stay on track with that? So now you can look at your progress because you set a specific, you were specific with what you were doing and why you were doing it and why it's important for you, because it's always going to go back to that. So that's one of the main reasons why self-care is very inconsistent. You have not defined what it is that you're wanting to experience or why it's important to you, and then what that actually looks like in a practical way. So I would love to know what is something that you are feeling inconsistent with when it comes to your own self-care. Let me know in the comments. And even if you're watching the replay, make sure you post #replay and then post in the comments as well, because this is it's an ongoing thing. And it's not something that's always easy to do. It does require effort. Self-care requires effort. Anything that you're wanting to do, and if you're wanting to experience change or do something new, or just progress in your life in a certain way, like you want to experience transformation, that's always going to require effort. And I feel like there needs to be more conversations around the effort that is required for personal transformation. Self-care is a pillar of personal transformation. And if you don't have the desire to transform your life, and you might not even see that as a point of transformation. So that could be another thing. Going back to the example of exercise, if your goal is to exercise 7 days a week, but you haven't been exercising at all, start with 2 or 3 days. But before you have that on the schedule, but what is it that you want? Why are you exercising? Why is it important for you to start doing? What do you want to experience? Do you feel stagnant? Do you want to get out of the house? You want to connect with nature more? Maybe you want to feel more energized. You want to lose weight. You want to feel healthier. You just want to have a healthier lifestyle, because having a healthier lifestyle allows you to live longer and feel more energized and feel vibrant, to be there for your kids, to not be at a point where you age, so you can age gracefully. Maybe it's that, just better quality of life. And if those are the things that's important to you, then you look at the bigger scope of life transformation. Like, this is, if I stay consistent with this, if I get in a routine, and this doesn't have to happen overnight, you can build up to this. Like, then the goal is personal transformation. I want to shift my lifestyle over time. It doesn't have to be overnight. For some of you, it might be overnight. Being honest with my emotions. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. That's a great one. So, I think that's so important to really have that dialogue of really being clear on what your emotions are wanting to say. Like, if you are not, and I'm awesome for doing this, just avoiding my emotions. It's like, I don't have time to feel these things right now. Like, who has time for that, right? You just put them in a box and shove them over there. And I think, when it comes to being honest with your emotions, I feel like that's a great starting point, because that's also an aspect of self-care. It starts with awareness, right? And for this whole month of September, it's Self-Care Awareness Month. So we're going to be talking about this all month. We're going to be diving deep into this topic, into the nitty-gritty of self-care, right? And emotions play a huge role, because your emotions, and I talked about this in the podcast episode that went live today, your emotions can get stuck, right? You can get spiritually stuck. So I was talking about in this week's podcast episode, which is about physical health, how physical health links to being spiritually stuck. I talk about how you can get spiritually stuck in your body, in your mind, or in your emotions. And if you're feeling stuck emotionally, then you have to shine a light on, well, what's going on with my emotions? What is the awareness that I need to experience, so I can even have the motivation, the drive to even get to that next step of wanting to be more physically active, or just wanting to feel better about myself, or wanting to have more confidence. So whatever that might be for you. Self-care is very much internal and external, and getting to a point where just identify what needs to be the priority. The internal aspect of self-care for you, is that what needs to happen first, or the external? Do you need to change something in your external environment? So for me, it's been external. Lately, I've been in declutter mode. Okay. I've been throwing stuff out. Stuff is in piles. I'm pulling, just things are everywhere right now in my house because I am like just really needing to clear my physical space. So that's been an aspect of self-care for me, my physical environment. Because in my physical environment, if things feel out of sorts or it feels stagnant in my physical space, then that starts to weigh me down mentally and emotionally. And it's just like I need to clear those things out. So definitely something to think about, of that starting point. In order for you to be more consistent, do you need to turn within first, or do you need to shift something externally? Whether it's decluttering your physical space, maybe it's just distancing yourself from friends or family or from certain people for a while, so you can just have time to just be with your own thoughts. That's where it starts. It takes reflection. And it does take that willingness. Are you even interested in doing the work? Are you interested in applying that effort or in doing what it takes to get there? And that's fine if you don't, right? Be where you are and just know that whenever you're ready to experience something different, it's available to you. And that will show through the steps that you're willing to take. Whenever you're ready, it's about making the decision to get clear with what you need most in order to get out of that place where you feel stuck, to get out of that life loop that you're in that keeps you from being inconsistent. And it's an ongoing process. It takes ongoing effort. It's not like, okay, I did it this one time and now I'm good. Because think about how many years of your life have you been in the active practice of being consistent? Like, I don't know about y'all, but I didn't go to I didn't take a class on consistency. Did anybody take a class on consistency when they were in school? Did anybody is there like a certification in being consistent? Like, is that a thing? I've had teachers and my mom and people tell me what I need to be doing and what I ain't doing and what I should be doing, but I'm not seeing that. Yeah, are we really taught that? I haven't been. So we've been kind of having to figure these things out. Like, it can show up in certain ways. Maybe you're in school. It's like, okay, well, if I don't do this homework consistently, then I'm not going to pass this class. I'm going to get in trouble if I don't pass this class. So there's a significant consequence. So you are put in a situation where there's certain conditions for you to be a certain way, for you to follow a certain protocol. But really the motivation is the consequence, because you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to fail. But what is the consequence when you are just wanting to transform your life for you? Welcome to adulting, people. Right? Who was the one holding you to that standard, or to that, oh, okay, well, if you don't do this, you're going to get in trouble. And you really have to look at that. Like, you don't necessarily have, when you're grown, you don't always have these pressures to do it. Like, yeah, you pay your bills because you don't want to get a late fee, and then you don't want your stuff to go to collections. You don't want people calling your house. But when you want to just get more sleep, you want to have be able to wake up earlier in the morning. You don't want to feel drained all day. You're just like, well, I could either, it's like, well, if I am drained all day, I mean, then the only one that really suffers is just me being tired, and I'm used to being tired all day, so I'll complain about it to myself, and then continue on. What is that a real consequence? If we're constantly disappointing ourselves, then we're used to disappointing ourselves, and we don't hold ourselves. I feel like I'm saying maybe I should speak for myself, right? I am, and then you let me know if you experience this, but it's easy for me to disappoint myself, and I can stay kind of in that. I don't have to answer to anybody if I disappoint myself, right? That's familiar. It's different when I have other people that are depending on me, right? Amen. And thought those teachers knew what they were doing, so I attempted to copy off of them. and spread to PF poison to others, especially my younger brothers. Oh wow. My love myself helps me feel worthy. My love myself helps me feel worthy and motivated to care for my needs. I love that. And that's the goal. The goal is to get to that point where you love yourself enough to maintain a higher standard for yourself, because you're worth it. But if you're not there yet, it's okay to not be there. And this is where that internal self-care comes in, where am I worth doing this for myself? Am I worthy of it? Do I feel worthy? You might not feel that way yet. So definitely something to consider. So I hope you all enjoyed this live stream today, where we're talking about why you're not consistent with self-care. And I shared some examples on how that can show up for you. Be sure to stay tuned for next Thursday. I'm not sure what time I'll be on. I think it'll be later in the day. But I will be going live again every Thursday in honor of Self-Care Awareness Week. So for those of you that are catching the replay, make sure you post #replay and let me know in the comments what you struggle with, or what's been going well for you when it comes to self-care. Where do you feel like you struggle with when it comes to consistency? Let me know in the comments. And other than that, I will see you on the next one. Bye.